Greetings, this is another reader. Welcome back to my channel. So this is a third episode of Why It's Worth Reading series. In this episode we have Beneath the Wheel by Hermann Hesse, Unterm Rad in the original German. A little bit about the author. Hermann Hesse, he was a German author. He was inspired by his own experience at studying in a boarding school or in a seminarium, or how it's called, to write this book. He rebelled against the education system. He was critical of the education system in Germany back then, and then he left the seminarium. In this book, a boy named Hans Gibernath sacrifices his love for fishing, his bunnies, and simply having friends and his own personal time to study. He sacrifices everything to study because that's what his father and his teachers expect of him. Even during summer, when he's supposed to rest, his teachers they offer him to study more, and he does. They always expect more of him. And so he passes the exam and then he gets accepted into the seminarium. However, Hans becomes afraid. The more he studies, the more he falls under the wheel. Like it says, the wheel, a soulless machine of upbringing that dooms everything that it touches, from maths to Homer. So in this video I want to talk about why it's worth reading. First of all, it's worth reading because of the plot. The story of Hans Gibernath shows how education system can affect children. Hesse was critical of education system of Germany back then, and this book was written in 1906 apparently. This book also shows what can happen if you try to live up to others' expectations instead of your own. Hans, he does everything to live up to his father's expectations, to his teacher's expectations, but in the process he loses himself, and it affects his physical and mental health. Second reason why it's worth reading is the characters. The characters in the plot, especially Hans and his friend Herman, named after the author himself, they are written very well. One thing I loved about this book is the dynamics between Hans and Herman and their different personalities. So Herman is the reflection of Hermann Hesse himself. At the start of the story, he is melancholic and he loves poetry, but then things happen to him that turn him into a school rebel. On the other hand, you have Hans, who is soft, fragile, and kinda ambitious. Both of them have great character development. Herman goes from melancholic character to rebellious character, and Hans, he goes from ambitious character to a more accepting character. To me, their friendship was the best aspect of the novel. Their friendship in the eyes of people, it's horrifying, because Herman is a punk rocker of the school. Well, I'm just kidding, he's not a punk rocker. He's simply a rebel, that's why I called him a punk rocker. And Hans, on the other hand, is more obedient and soft. At some point, teachers tell Hans to break up with Herman, well, to stop being friends with him. And Hans is like, no, I can't do that, he's my friend, blah 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 blah. But there's one scene in the book, one scene where one thing happens to Herman, or to be exact, it's the result of his actions. And then what Hans does, or to be exact, doesn't do, that had me like, oh no. The narration of the book is very interesting. Hermann Hesse, he unfolds quite a big amount of time. Probably, I think this book takes a course of the year. So during the course of the 7th chapter, this book tells us a lot about Hans, about his father, about his town and the seminarium and so on. The very first thing that we read in the book is the description of Hans' father, Joseph, or It goes into description how he looks, what he thinks, where he works, and so on. And then the narration goes to Hans, his son. Why do I recommend this book? First of all, I'd like to recommend this book to anyone who is studying right now, to anyone who is in school, who is in university, or especially for those who prepare for university. This is a great warning against the flaws of education system, how the education system affects mental and physical health, especially if there's someone fragile like Hans. I also recommend this book to adults, so they can see what they're putting their children through. The general themes of the book, the character development, and the interesting narration makes this book very interesting to read. It's quite easy to read, and you can read it in one evening like I did. However, there's one thing I do want to say, one thing that would have made the book better, in my opinion. So, there's going to be a few spoilers. So, I think the book should have ended, the last chapter should have been when Hans exits the seminarium, and the next chapter should have been an epilogue on what he does. The rest half of this book, it should have been one epilogue. And to be honest, I hate the ending. And I hated Emma. Otherwise, this book is absolutely amazing, totally one of the best books I read in 2022. Alright, that's all, thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. Have you read this book? What do you think about it? Let me know down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, follow me on social media. See you next time. Goodbye.